Been having some mechanical issues. We had a part eject itself and I had to replace it, and ever since then I'm having some oil pressure issues, so I'm sticking to the back roads for now. I'm taking Highway 40 right now, but we are heading into Hayes, where I'm going to investigate a local legend that a couple of people have requested. It seems to be possibly the most popular ghost story in Kansas, besides maybe the Sally House. So we're headed to Hayes to investigate the legend of Elizabeth Polly, the Blue Light Lady. I've been having some car trouble, so I haven't been filming while driving. But I've made it here to Fort Hayes, Kansas. That guy just lost his hat and I caught it on tape. Just outside of the town of Hayes, Kansas. About a little bit less than halfway across the state, probably closer to a third of the way across the state. There's a statue of a bison over here. I was walking over to film, but I just noticed that there's actual bison across the street. Fort Hayes is, of course, haunted by several different apparitions, but perhaps the most famous of them is none other than the Blue Light Lady. See, I was coming over here to film the bison statue, but then I looked across the street. There are actual bison over there. Fort Hayes was established near present-day Hayes, Kansas in the 1860s during the First American Civil War. At the time, these buildings weren't here or anything. It was actually just tents. These buildings were later construction. In 1867, following the outbreak of the First American Civil War, much of the country, particularly the West and Midwest, was ravaged by a serious cholera epidemic which claimed as many as 50,000 lives, North and South alike. An already war-torn Kansas, already the center of much of the fighting, was particularly hard hit. At Fort Hayes, near the present town of Hayes, a division of African-American troops were stationed to fight the ongoing Indian Wars versus the Cheyenne and indigenous Great Plains tribes. These troops, as well as the Cheyenne, were exposed to cholera and decimated from July to September of 1867. 23 colored troops and an unknown number of Cheyenne warriors were killed by the disease, Cheyenne warriors and civilians. To address the outbreak, the United States Army sought to hire nurses to send out to Fort Hayes, then little more than a cluster of tents and a wooden palisade wall. Answering the call, a Civil War veteran named E. Edward Polly moved from Colorado to Fort Hayes with his wife Elizabeth, and the two became nurses, tending to the sick and dying. Ephraim, E. Edward, was 24 years old. His younger wife Elizabeth was also 24. She came from Liberty, Missouri. While Elizabeth had little formal training as a nurse, her presence was a comfort to the dying soldiers. Due to her beauty, she quickly earned the nickname the Angel of Mercy, sitting with the sick and dying by lantern light in their final hours. When she could, she would take her lantern and walk to the nearby limestone bluffs, now known as Sentinel Hill, which was right there on the horizon, where she found comfort and peace. That is Sentinel Hill right there. The lady that worked here pointed it out. Unfortunately, I can't get to it because it's on private property. It's closed to public access. There's a mock-up of the old fort that was literally just tents. Ooh, there's a nice spooky picture of her. Nice spooky picture of her. I love that. Oftentimes soldiers who died while fighting were buried where they fell. Most who died at or near the post were buried at the military cemetery 1 mile northwest of here. Nearly 25 of the 175 buried here were civilians. The first burial was a victim of cholera in 1867. That summer's epidemic claimed 23 military victims in approximately 1 month's time. I just read through all that from my own notes. When the fort was abandoned, the Army decided to relocate the military graves to Fort Leavenworth so they could be properly tended. The residents of Hayes delayed the move, afraid that disturbing the remains might trigger another cholera epidemic. The graves were finally relocated in 1905. Flip to page 2 of my notes real fast. I have a lot of notes for this video. At some point that summer, the inevitable happened. Elizabeth Polly contracted cholera herself. Her visits to Sentinel Hill became more common until she got sick, so sick that she could no longer make the walk. Knowing her time had come, she asked Ephraim to bury her at her favorite spot at the top of the hill. Elizabeth Polly passed away in September 1867 at the age of only 24. Upon her death, a squadron of soldiers were ordered to dig her grave at the top of Sentinel Hill, but their shovels hit bedrock only a few inches down. No grave could be dug there. Instead, she was buried near the base of the hill. The soldiers gave her a military funeral, but her uniform was that of a nurse, a pale blue dress and a white bonnet. Ephraim remained in the Hayes for some time, becoming a pharmacist and opening a general store. 6 years later, he remarried and moved to Hemphill County in the Texas Panhandle, where he opened a roadhouse. He was eventually elected judge of Hemphill County and lived a long, happy life. Elizabeth Polly's grave has been lost to time, with a variety of legends explaining its absence. One legend states that the grave marker was taken by fellow Liberty, Missouri resident Jesse James, the famed outlaw, who may have taken it home to her family farm. Another legend says that her grave was marked by 4 limestone pillars, which were stolen by 4 thieves. The legend says that a curse fell upon these thieves. 1 was killed in a gunfight that night, 2 in a carriage accident the next day, and the 4th struck by a train in apparent suicide. Another theory states that the fragile, brittle karst limestone simply eroded away. Regardless, her dying wish of being buried on the hilltop was never fulfilled. That hilltop right there. It is rumored that the spirit of Elizabeth Polly still walks to that hilltop every night. Due to her blue dress and the light of her lantern, she has gained the nickname, the Blue Light Lady. Several sightings have been reported, with many people describing her blue dress and white bonnet, the outfit in which she was buried. Residents claim that if you wait at the top of the hill at night, you'll hear footsteps and sometimes crying, but she always disappears before reaching the hilltop. Some even report seeing strange lights atop the hill, even surrounding them when they stand atop. In 1917, a farmer named John Schmidt saw a woman in blue walking to his barn near the old fort. I believe that barn there. Saw a woman in blue walking to his barn near the old fort by lantern light during a storm. Schmidt went outside to offer the woman to come inside, dry off, and warm up, but found his barn empty. On Halloween night in the 1970s, I couldn't figure out exactly what year, a student went to the hill to spot Polly. He wrote an account of his encounter, here written in verbatim. The apparition crested the hill and floated above the prairie like a stray tumbleweed. It paused once to glance up at the full moon, then continued its descent towards our hiding spot in the bushes. As the blue light drew closer, the shadows of her face became distinguishable features, and the pattern of her long prairie dress and bonnet came into view. Even though the apparition faded before touching the ground, I could hear her footsteps in the dirt. Driving down now, literally about 200 feet down the road from the old, a little bit further than 200 feet. But like a quarter mile down the road from the old fort. That's the side of Fort Hayes. That's all golf course now. Is it? Oh shoot, I think it was right there. Let me put down the camera and turn around. This park here is the site of possibly the best confirmed ghost sighting in all of Kansas. In the year 1950, a police officer requested an ambulance over radio, saying he had just struck a woman in a blue dress on South Main Street, between the bridge over Big Creek right there and Old Fort Road, now the US 193 bypass. That's somewhere in this 300-foot stretch here, probably right where I'm standing. When paramedics responded, the officer was hysterical, but no damage had been done to his car and no body had been found. He claimed that the woman got up after being hit by his car and walked off into the woods in that direction, which happens to be the direction towards Sentinel Hill. That's a pretty good ghost sighting. Right as I pulled up here too, a cop drove by. I don't think it was the same cop that struck the woman in blue, but that's pretty creepy. I'm getting chills a little bit. I was just leaving the park where I filmed that little bit about her crossing the road, and I noticed right there somebody left this not creepy at all little angel figurine sitting there watching the park. That's not creepy at all. Bye, Angel. Finally, about 10 minutes away, there's this very small parcel of land here called Elizabeth Polly Park. There's not much to it. There's the creek. There's this mural that I just noticed that depicts a woman in blue sitting on a hill overlooking what appears to be a sick and dying, mirrored over on that side. And there's this statue up here. This statue, I just looked it up and my mind went blank all of a sudden. 1 second, let me look it back up. This statue depicting Elizabeth Polly was made by Peter Felton Jr. in 1982. And it depicts her in the form that she is best known as by the residents of Hays, Kansas. In her prairie dress, walking in the direction of Sentinel Hill, holding in her hands a bouquet of flowers, even though it's usually a lantern. The Legend of Elizabeth Polly is a classic ghost story, rife with tragedy. As such, of course, it's been memorialized in song. Singer-songwriter Bob Maxwell wrote a ballad based on her story, which closes with the lines, "She's up there on that hill somewhere, though her grave has long been lost, and her rest been disturbed, for she walks without a word among us who count her cost." And that, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, is the legend of the Blue Light Lady, based on the very real nurse, Elizabeth Polly. Catch you next time on Creepy Kansas. Next, I'm headed out to Delphos for a very special episode that I'm very excited for. That's all I'll say about it for now. And thanks for watching Creepy Kansas. Assuming you made it through the whole thing, if you're watching this, you either skipped ahead to part 6 or you did make it through the whole thing, so I would just like to say thank you. I put a lot of work into this series, and I had a lot of fun making it. Obviously, you don't drive 1,800 miles to film a series if you're not going to have fun making it. I wasn't sponsored by anybody, so I would like to plug myself as a sponsor. This video was sponsored by me, author Hazel E. Baumgartner. I have a novel out right now. It's called The Woods, a horror novel. You can get yourself a copy. It is about a monster stalking a family through their family property in rural Alaska. It spans 3 decades from 1992 to 2020. I'm pretty proud of it. The release is coming up on 1 year ago, and actually to celebrate the anniversary of the release, it is on sale right now on Amazon for both paperback and hardcover and Kindle for $13 for the paperback, $3.50 for the Kindle, and I don't remember how much for the hardcover, but you can get it there. It's on sale right now. Go grab yourself a copy. There are lots of spots I didn't get to. This is my map of where I did and didn't go. I would like to go to the Bender Mounds or somewhere down here. Osawatomie, the Sally House in Atchison, but I just didn't get to go there. You can kind of see my going across the state there in crayon. I might give this map away. I might leave it up for set dressing. I'm not sure. Details of that will probably be on my Discord server, which you can find on my other socials. Just Hazel E. Baumgartner on anything I'm on. Blue Sky and Reddit mostly. My 666th follower on Blue Sky will get a free copy of The Woods. I will have a second novel coming out eventually. Have not yet officially set a release date, but I'm hoping to have it out next Halloween. We will see. I would like to give a special thanks to Silver, to Mickey for helping me out when my Jeep broke down, to my mom for helping fund this a little bit, and to Kira and Mark. To fund future adventures, I'm thinking about setting up a Patreon. There will be more details for that on all of my socials when it happens, when and if it happens. And past that, I'd like to say thank you all for watching. If you enjoy my storytelling, stick around. This is not the end. There will be more coming out soon. I'm doing more creepy or obscure cryptids videos. And then I'm thinking about doing a Creepy Colorado series next summer to follow up on this with just the next state over. So stick around. I hope you enjoy those. Check out my Discord, my subreddit, r.Hazley_Baumgartner, and follow me on Blue Sky and TikTok. Just Hazley Baumgartner and all of those. And buy my book. Thanks. Thanks for watching. Bye. By the way, I did spend some time decorating this map, so I just wanted to show it off in a little bit more detail. It says Creepy Kansas in creepy crayon letters. You can see where I started in Kansas City, drove out to Stoll, and then Kanza Prairie, and then I actually took, that little dirt road there, going up there, out to Inman Lake, out to the first time I went to Monument Rocks, and Little Jerusalem Badlands, up to the Fick Fossil Museum, and Mount Sunflower. And then I forgot to film at Mount Sunflower Monument Rocks. So on the way back, I stopped and I filmed there. No, actually on the way back, I went this way and just straight shot it across I-70. Didn't stop anywhere. Went back out and I stopped at Fort Hays Historic Site, the Fick Fossil Museum, Monument Rocks again, El Cordileo again, to actually film them, and Mount Sunflower. And then on the way back, I stopped in, I X'd Colby here for some reason. I don't think I actually filmed anything in Colby. I think I was thinking of Hayes and Salina, because I didn't X Salina. I need to fix that. I stopped in Hayes and filmed in Hayes, and I filmed in Delphos. So you can kind of see where everything is on the map there. Since I spent time on the map, I wanted to go ahead and show it off a little bit for the video. I really kind of went all over Kansas. Anyways, yeah, this is where the credits would roll. I'm just gonna end this video by saying bye.